Welcome into another exciting episode of the Scene Project Sports Network. I'm your host, Bubba Starts, and with me today is the founder of Kelly Performance and Wellness, Jacqueline Kelly. Welcome into the show, Jacqueline.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, well, you have a very exciting job. I know that you just picked up a new contract with a brand new National Women's Soccer League team. But before we get into that, want to give you the floor here. Give us a little bit of your backstory and kind of how you got to this point.
Yes. Through blood, sweat, and tears, I think. Started right out of college doing personal training and strength and conditioning. Always with some sort of mindfulness before sports psychology was cool. And then went back to school to get my master's in sports psychology and then on to many other certifications and education things, but to get the CMPC or Certified Mental Performance Coach. I've owned my own business for a lot of years, but I've also worked in universities. I've worked with the military and now working with the Boston Legacy FC. So one of those cliches that I've never really worked a day in my life because I enjoy so much of what I do. So just feeling very fortunate to be part of this new team also and still being able to work on Kelly Performance and Wellness also.
Yeah. So did you grow up an athlete?
Yes, I played everything. Tennis, I played on the boys soccer team in my high school, played basketball in college. I think I was a better softball player, but somehow got a basketball scholarship, so couldn't say no. I love to golf and mountain bike and ski and pickleball and all of those things now, but it's hard to find the time.
Yeah, you're working too darn much. We love being active. You know, that's the reason that, you know, the Scene Projects as a network started focused around music. That's the world that I came out of. But I played 3 sports all through high school. I've always been active in adventure sports as well. Love to snowboard, love hiking and being out in nature. I grew up in the Black Hills of South Dakota. So we grew up with the National Forest as our backyard. It was just part of what we did. And I never necessarily got into like the motor sports side of that. My dad was a collegiate basketball player, so it's just always been a part of what we've done. And that's why we started the Scene Project Sports Network, was to support, it started with our local high school football team. Just talking with the coach, I kind of mentioned it in passing one day. Shout out to Coach Culver, who was in the weight room working out. And I knew that he had recently lost his wife and had more time on his hands and needed something to do, right? And a way to support his boys on the team. And we started a coach's show. And I feel like serving your community has always been there, your community of athletes, whether it was on the, you said more like physical therapy stuff or sports early on, but there's such a huge mental part of the game and being an athlete yourself. You understand that better than most.
Yeah, it's definitely, I don't think you can have one without the other, right? We got to have a strong body. You've got to have a strong mind and you have to have a strong purpose.
And now getting to help at the professional level. Is this the first time you've worked with professional athletes?
I have worked with professional athletes one-on-one, but I have never worked with a team. So yes, my first experience, and it's pretty exciting.
Now, I know this is relatively new. So have you begun work with the team already?
Yes, we're into preseason now. We're getting ready to travel again because the weather in Boston has been a little cold. So
I live in South Dakota, Jacqueline. You don't have to tell me about the cold.
Yes.
Talk about the difference between working a one-on-one. I was very fortunate to have Dr. Brett Denkin on with me recently, and he does a lot of this with collegiate athletes, especially, but also pros. But it's always on a one-to-one basis. Talk about the difference between working one-on-one with a player and working with a group of players now on the team.
So certainly there is time to meet with each individual athlete and still do one-on-ones. But I am there to support the entire team and the staff. So there are times set aside for learning. I guess in the beginning, probably 80% of my job is observation. And where I feel like we need some education, whether that is, increased confidence or energy management, recovering from mistakes. So it's the best of both worlds. You get to know the athletes on a one-on-one basis, but I also get to work with them as a whole and how to make the team stronger.
Is it fairly common with professional teams to have someone in this position now? Because I don't feel like this was, especially for me growing up, in the, early aughts when I was in high school, even in the collegiate programs at that time, 20 years ago, that this was really part of every single team, that you had a sports psychologist or, someone in this coaching realm working on the mental game. Is this relatively new to the industry as a whole?
For sure. Yes. We maybe got a little bit more recognition with the military. And then baseball, mental performance coaches are very, very strong in baseball, but now you're seeing it at the collegiate level and the professional level for sure.
Obviously, you can see the banner behind me, Operation Combating Veteran Suicide, being a big part of what we do here with the Scene Projects Network. I'm the marketing and PR director for the foundation as well. Talk about your work with the military and starting off there and what it means to you to serve our country in that way.
One of the biggest honors I've ever had to work with the military as a mental performance coach. I specifically was at the Defense Language Institute, where all the military branches come to learn a language. So it's very high stress. Suicide prevention is not my expertise, but something I'm very passionate about also. So being there to support them at a basic level, and then also being able to refer very quickly if things seemed to escalate or I wasn't able to give them the support they needed. So very passionate about that, and still do some volunteering with some surfing groups and some ski groups for the military.
Just incredible. I don't think enough of us civilians understand the amount of stress, especially these very young people are under going through boot camp or going through training. And I mean, most people, it's a young man's, industry, right? The military is. It's not necessarily something where you're dealing with very fully fledged adults who have a lot of those, and the military at their very base are made to take you as a very moldable piece of clay to break you down and to build you back up. But we don't often think about these stresses that it puts the human being under to be broken down, or to the learning the new language. I think is so key, because it's not easy. I speak a little bit of Spanish, but even watching, dating this episode a little bit, watching Bad Bunny's performance at the halftime show for the Super Bowl last night, where it's very hard to understand things rapidly. And now you're talking about having to learn a language that you're going to need to use in a high stress, high octane environment, right? And it can be very, very challenging to learn it, but then to put it into practice as well.
Yeah, no, I'm just kudos to our military and almost all the branches, and how they are bringing in multiple mental performance coaches now to have that support. I was very busy when I was there, and every single one of those, regardless of the branch, were very thankful for the help and support that we could provide.
I think we just need someone to tell us that, like, it's okay that this is hard, right? A very basic line. It seems kind of silly to say it, but it's supposed to be challenging, and you're going to get through it. And having just that, like, those small reassurances can be so important. It's not, life isn't easy in general, and to work under high stress environments, whether it's on the field or it's on the battlefield, are extremely stressful. And it's a reason that the suicide rates for our military are as high as they are. And I don't think that there's enough credit given to these soldiers, whether they're still enlisted or retired from the military, for what they've been through and what they go through on a daily basis.
Right. I agree completely. And we don't know, the stories of before they came into the military, what stories they're bringing with them too. So to have this continued support, hopefully we're able to continue to make some changes with our military and give them the support and care that they need.
No, I would say a vast majority of people, sometimes the military is a way out of circumstances, where on the sports side, mostly what you're working with, especially if you're working at the upper echelon of collegiate or professional athletes, that they, for the most part, have had I don't want to say easy life, but a much more, maybe, an easier time in that life, right? Usually have a little bit better family structure around them, have had some advantages, whether it's at the collegiate level or even just being high school. We know what it's like to be a star athlete. Some of us, you get treated a little bit differently, and members of our military aren't necessarily always coming from that world.
Right. I agree completely. Yeah.
Jacqueline, in your work with your company, Kelly Performance Sport and Wellness, how much of it is on the performance side and how much is on the wellness side? I feel like while they can be very closely knit together, that isn't always the case.
Yeah. No, I work with people on building a physical program. I work with people on building a more resilience. I have a program, a virtual program that you can do in 7 days called Unfragile, trying to basically make it a movement that you understand that life is hard, but we're not here to suffer. So if you are putting certain strategies in order, when the next storm comes, you'll be a little bit more equipped to suffer a little bit less. And then I also do sports hypnosis virtually. So cover lots of performance and lots of mental and physical wellness.
Who are the toughest athletes? And maybe just narrow it down to sport, not personally. We're not trying to pick on anybody, but what are kind of the hardest sports for you in your experience that you've worked in?
I don't know if it's a specific sport, but maybe the sport that makes you control your emotions the most, right? Maybe the highest stakes. You take a lot of emotion into that, and being able to regulate your emotions so that you're not too high and heart rate's too high, or you're not too low and you're not going in at your peak, right? Finding that flow. So I don't know if I could pick a specific sport.
Well, and I think any sport where it's high pressure individual moments, golf would obviously be a massive one where you don't have a team necessarily to fall back on. I think the team sports are maybe a little easier, but you mentioned baseball as well. And it's a very personal, stepping up there to the plate. It's just you and that ball coming at you, right? So I feel like those two of sports that I've played are the most challenging to me, to get out of your own head and rely on your training and your physical ability.
I work with a lot of golfers, and there is so much time in between shots. So there are a lot of supports or skills that we teach for the times. So I would agree with you very much in baseball. But when you go to the professional level and it's your job, it's a completely different conversation than even high school or college.
Yeah, and maybe that the amount of money you're making takes some of the other stresses off of you, right? Guys playing professional ball aren't necessarily thinking about an exam that they have coming up later in the week, possibly. But the pressure is also mounting because it is your paycheck, and these professional sports especially can be so volatile. We know how the media can be, myself being on the other side of that of that conversation now. So it's intriguing to me, and I really look forward to talking with you. Maybe we can get together after your season here of working with the soccer team and talk about some of the, the situations that you're going to deal with over the course of a season, and being totally fresh to this as personally, right? I know that you've done this job for a long time, but you're going to go through things that are going to be a first for you this year, and being attached to a team like this and going through it. So really intrigued, and very proud of you for accepting this new challenge in your life, and excited for you to go have some new experiences.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's exactly how I'm looking at it, and right, trying to be as prepared as possible, but being prepared for the unknown.
It's often the hardest thing we can do, right? I've lived most of my life kind of shooting from the hip, so I find myself kind of innately prepared for those moments. But I still, have to respect that other people necessarily haven't had that lived experience. So, Jacqueline, I appreciate you taking some time for me today. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is great. It's great to meet you.
Go ahead and tell everybody where they can find your company, where they can get a hold of you if they need some help in the psychology department or on the performance side of things as well.
Yeah, so it's www.kellyperformancewellness.com, and all of my information there, the information about my book coming out, Unfragile, the program, and anything you need is on there.
Fantastic. Well, we're looking forward. I hope everybody goes and gets a copy of that new book when it comes out. We're going to be watching this new Boston team out in the National Women's Soccer League and Football League, rather, and getting to enjoy some really great performances on the field. Jacqueline, thank you for taking a little bit of time for me, and thank you for being part of the scene.
Thank you very much.